Let's go over these problems to prepare ourselves for our next test. Number 1 says, what does it mean to find the solution to the system of linear equations? What you are looking for is the point of intersection, or the ordered pair where two lines cross. What does it look like when the solution set has infinitely many solutions? What that means is that the lines are always touching. So if I were to graph something where two lines were always touching, so here's one, and then I draw on top of it, it looks like the same line. And it looks like just one line, one on top of the other. What happens to an inequality when you divide by a negative? You need to flip the inequality sign. For example, if I had less than, it's going to become a greater than. So you flip the arrow the other way. What are the 3 methods for solving systems? We can graph. We can use substitution. Or we can use elimination. So number 5, we're looking for the solution to the system. And I'm going to use elimination because there's a -1 here and a +1 here. The y's have the same number but opposite signs. So when I add up straight up and down, 3x plus 1x makes 4x's. -1 plus 1 cancel out. -1 plus -3 makes -4. Now I can divide by 4, and I get x equals -1. Then all I got to do is take either equation. I'm going to use the top one, and I'm going to plug my value back in. So I had 3x minus y equals -1. I'm going to plug my x in. So I get 3 times -1 minus y equals -1. Now you can absolutely, and you are encouraged to check your answer by unsolving it. I'm going to do the algebra. 3 times -1 is -3, minus y equals -1. I'm going to add the 3 to the other side. -y equals 2. Divide by -1, divide by -1, and y equals -2. When you write your answer, it should say x comma y. So my answer is the x value -1, comma the y value -2. Number 6 says, what is the solution to the system of equations? And then we're going to pick the method we want to use. Again, you can see that there's a 4 here and a 4 here, but they're both negative. So I'm going to keep my top equation the same. 5x minus 4y equals -8. I'm going to multiply my bottom equation by a -1. And when I distribute the -1 across, everyone's sign will change. So it'll be a -x, a positive 4y, and a -8. And now I can add up and down, and the y's will go away. 5x's minus 1x makes 4x's. -8 plus -8 is -16. Divide by 4 and divide by 4. X equals -4. Now remember, in your ordered pairs, x comma y. Now if you look at all these x values, that's not right, that's not right, that's not right. Letter C is the only one that has the right x value. But do remember, you can plug this back in, this x back into the other equation, and solve for y to find the y value. And in this method, because I added the 2 equations together, I used elimination. I eliminated right here the y variable. The next problem says, what is the value of x? Please make sure you read, make sure you give them what they want. This one wants the x value only. So if I want to find the x value, I should probably eliminate the y. So if you look, I have a -2 and a -4. Those numbers aren't the same. But I can multiply this top equation by a 2 and make the 2 become a 4, but they both are negative. So I want to multiply by a -2. So that -2 gets distributed into everyone. You get -2x plus 4y equals -8. Keep the other equation the same. 7x minus 4y equals -12. Add up and down. -2 plus 7 makes 5x. These y's eliminated, and then I get -20. -8 plus -12 is -20. Divide by 5, divide by 5. X equals -4. It asks for the x value. X is -4. You don't have to find any more than that. If by chance you found the y value first, no big deal. Just go ahead and plug it back in and then find the x value. You even could graph them if you wanted to. Just make sure that if it asks for the x value, that you only list the x value. Okay, in the next problem, we're going to do line A first. So we're going to go to this box for line A, and we'll talk about line A. My y-intercept is 2. This is the y. My slope is 1/3. This is my slope. And that slope is a rise over a run. This inequality symbol tells me that I'm going to do a solid line. And it says y is less than, so I should shade below. So I'm going to graph my y-intercept of 2. I'm going to go up 1 over 1, 2, 3. I'm going to use a ruler and draw a straight edge. I'll make sure when I do, I draw a solid line. And so in here, you're going to have to make sure that you click solid to make the solid line. Now this is where it's a little bit weird. In Eduphoria, you can't shade right now. So we said shade below. So I'm going to make a note to myself that I'm going to shade down this way. Down this way. Then I'm going to go to the second equation, line B. Line B, this is the y-intercept, this is the slope. So my y-intercept is -1. My slope is up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, 2, 3. This right here tells me I'm going to have a dotted line or a dashed. And I should shade up because it says y is greater. So right here, after you put your 2 dots down, you are going to have to change that to dashed line. So now this one said shade up, so I'm going to shade up. Oops, I'm going to shade up this way and up this way. So if you look, the place where they're going to overlap, so this is the last step, then you have to click an Eduphoria solution set and you have to touch the screen where you want it to shade. Well, the place where they would overlap, where I want Eduphoria to shade, is in here. So I would have to tap this and then it would shade in between for me. So at this point, I want you to pause the video. I want you to go try number 9 and then come back and check your answer. So for the top line, your y-intercept was 2. Your slope's -1 or -1 over 1, which means you're going to go down 1 and you always go to the right. I'm going to go to the right 1. I'm going to click here and change this to dashed or dotted. So my line is dashed. And when I shade, I will shade only under this one. Now pause the video again and try the other equation. So for the second one, your y-intercept is -2. Your slope's up 1 over 3. I drew a solid line, and I would shade up. So then I'm going to click solution set and click the screen where the 2 shading would meet, and the 2 shading would meet in here. So pause the video again and try number 10. So for the top line, my y-intercept was 1. My slope's 2 over 3, so I go up 2 over 3. I had a solid line, and I want to shade underneath it. Now line B, it's a little bit trickier. This doesn't have a y, he only has an x. In fact, he is what we call a vux. Vux stands for vertical. which means I'm going to draw an up and down line, and I have an x. Well, my x is -3. So you go to your x-axis and put a dot at -3. I know from the symbol that I'm going to have a dotted or a dashed line. So make sure you pick this and change it to dashed. And again, vertical, up and down. So I'm going to draw an up and down dashed line. And then finally, I'm going to click Solution Set. The dashed line said that x was greater than -3. The x's get bigger this way. So if you think about where the two shading would overlap, it would be everywhere in here. So you hit Solution Set, and then you're going to click right here to make the shading show up in the proper spot. For number 11, you can absolutely decide that you want to do the end solve graph. Before you do anything else, though, I would like to tell you to look at these two signs. This one should be a dotted or dashed line. This one should be a solid line. So based on that fact, it can't be letter A. Letter A is gone. You can use end solve and then inspire and type the equation as it is. I'm going to take the first equation. I'm going to do math. I'm going to minus the x to the other side. Negative y is greater than -x minus 2. I'm going to divide everyone by -1. And remember, when you divide by a negative, the inequality flips. So y is now less than a positive x plus 2. That means my equation should have a y-intercept of 2. Go up 1 over 1. Well, that's not right for C. Let's try B. Y-intercept of 2. That doesn't have it. Y-intercept of 2 up 1 over 1, and it should be a dotted line. It's letter D. Let's try C. So solid, dotted. So I should have one solid and one dotted. Well, that means B's gone because they're both dotted, and C's gone because they're both solid. And A's gone because they're both dashed. So the only answer I'm left with is it has to be letter D. Let's go on to the next page. So again, this is solid, dashed. So C's gone. The rest are going to stay. So I'm going to take the top equation, and I have x minus y less than or equal to 2. I'm going to minus the x over to the other side, so I get negative y less than or equal to -x plus 2. Divide everyone by a -1. Y, remember the sign flips. Y is greater than or equal to x minus 2. So I have to have a y-intercept of -2. So y-intercept is -2, and then I go up 1 over 1 with a solid line. That one works. This one, up 1 over 1, solid, up 1 over 1. So all of those have the right line. Now remember, this right here told me to shade up. So on letter A, this one shades up. That's good. On this one, I'm supposed to shade up. I didn't shade up on this one. Well, maybe I did. We'll see. Maybe the overlap is over here. On this one, I should shade up. Well, if I shaded up, there should be shading somewhere up here, and this is below me, so it's definitely not D. D is wrong shading. So now I'm going to take the other equation I had, which was 4x minus y is greater than -1. And I'm going to solve. Minus 4x, negative y, greater than -4x minus 1, and divide everyone by a negative. Y is less than 4x plus 1. So my other one should be a dotted line. And I should go to 1, and I should go up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. And I should shade below, like that. Well, look at my red arrow and my blue arrow match. But if I look at B, the graph is right. Nope, the graph's not even, oh, it's right here. 2, 3, 4 over 1, that's right. But this one's the shade below. The shading here is wrong, so it has to be letter A. And the next one, it says, which system best represents no solution? No solution means never touch. If you are never going to touch, your line should be parallel. So these ones touch, that's not it. These ones touch, that's not it. These ones are going to touch. If I extend the lines, they'll touch over here somewhere, that's not it. But letter D, no matter which way I slice it, those two are parallel and they will never, ever, ever intersect. Okay, so let's do number 15. We're just going to read it carefully. Sarah Wong and Molly are selling flower buds for a school fundraiser. Customers can buy bags of wildflower bulbs and packages of crocus bulbs. Sarah Wong sold 14 bags of wildflower bulbs and 11 packages of crocus bulbs for a total of $277. Molly sold 7 bags of wildflower bulbs and 6 packages of crocus bulbs for a total of $146. What is the cost of each of 1 bag of wildflower bulbs and 1 package of crocus bulbs? So we have 2 situations. Let's talk about Sarah Wong first. So it says Sarah Wong sold 14 bags of wildflower bulbs and 11 packages of crocus bulbs for a total of $277. I'm going to let wildflowers be X. So now I have 14X, and means plus 11. I'm going to let crocus bulbs be Y for a total equals $277. So my first equation is 14X plus 11Y equals $277. And then Molly sold 7 bags of wildflower bulbs and 6 packages of crocus bulbs for a total of $146. So remember, 7X 6Y equals my 146. So I have 7X plus 6Y equals my 146. I now need to go ahead and solve. So you can solve for Y in both of them in graph. I'm going to choose to multiply the bottom equation by a -2. -2 times 7 is going to make a -14. Those things will cancel out for me. So I'm going to multiply by a -2. So when I distribute this -2 across to everyone in here, I get negative 14x minus 12y equals negative 292. And I'm just going to copy down my other equation. 14x plus 11y equals 277. And I'm going to add straight up and down these equations together. The x's are going to cancel off. 11 plus negative 12 is negative 1y equals 277 plus negative 292 makes negative 15. And I'm going to divide both sides by this -1. So y is going to equal 15. Remember, my y is my crocus bulbs. So my crocus bulbs cost $15 per bag. Now to find my x, I need to plug my y back in. So I always use the top equation. You can use whichever one you prefer. So I have 14x plus 11y equals 277. I know that y equals 15, so I'm going to plug that in. 14x plus 11, not a y anymore, y is worth 15, equals 277. You can end solve this, comma x. I'm going to go ahead and multiply by hand. I get 14x plus 11 times 15 is 165 equals 277. I'm going to subtract the 165 over to the other side. So I get 14x, this cancels out, equals 112. I divided both sides by 14, and x equals $8, which is my wildflower bulbs. Number 16 wants you to find domain and range. Remember, domain is your x, and here's my x-axis. So I'm going to go to my x-axis. I got a -4 with a closed circle. I got a 6 with a closed circle. So for my domain, I go from -4 to 6, and x goes in the middle. They both were closed circles, so less than equal to, less than equal to. Range is my y value, so I'm going to go here to my y-axis. The top was 2 with a closed circle. The very bottom, this is a -3 with a closed circle. So you put them in order, numeric order, so small first. I'm going to go -3, y, and then my 2, and they both had closed circles, so less than equal to, less than equal to. Very similar to number 15. So go ahead and pause your video, use 15 as your model. Number 17 is a problem that you should no longer get wrong, because number 1, you can absolutely check and guarantee you get the right answer by putting it in the calculator, and the letter you see is x, so comma x. I'm going to go ahead and do the math for it. This -5 has to get distributed. -5 times 7 is -35x. -5 times -2 becomes a +10. Then I have my plus 10x on the outside equals, this 4 gets distributed. 4x minus, use a calculator, 4 times 12 makes 48. On the left-hand side, my -35x and my 10x are like terms. I have to put them together. That makes a -25x. I'm going to copy down my plus 10 equals 4x minus 48. And then I'm going to put things on one side. So let's move my x's over here, make them positive. So plus 25x plus 25x. Oops, that's 25x. So I get 10 equals 29x minus 48. I'm going to add my 48 to the other side because it doesn't have an x, so it doesn't belong on the side with the x's. This makes a 58 equals 29x. And then to get x by itself, you have to divide by that 29. So you should get x equals 2, which we can verify by using nsolve on our calculator. So go ahead and pause the video. Try number 18. So you should use nsolve to check your answer when you are done, but distributing on both sides should get you to an x equals 3. Okay, let's do number 19. So I'm going to do these like Edgeforia has them set up. So the top one is always the blue one, line A, which has to be the top one right here, line A. So it's already in slope-intercept form, so I have y equals, no, not y equals, sorry. I have that y is greater than x plus 3. Remember, there's an invisible 1 here. This is my y-intercept. This 1 right here is a 1 over 1. This is my rise over my run. It's my slope. It's my rate of change. The rise is up and down. Since it's a positive, I'm going to go up. You always go to the right. So in Edgeforia, you're going to click right here. You're going to click line A, and then we're going to do line A stuff. So my y-intercept was 3. And then I do my slope, my rise 1, run 1. And when you put those 2 dots down, Edgeforia is going to automatically put a solid line down. But what we need to notice is this right here tells me that I need to click this and change it to dashed. And when you do, Edgeforia will change that solid line to a nice, beautiful dashed line for you, like this. So when you're in Edgeforia, you only can shade 1 time. So we're going to make note that this says y is greater, and we want to shade up. So this one would shade like this. The second one in Edgeforia is always green. So for my green line, I have y is greater than negative 3 over 2x minus 2. This minus 2 is my y-intercept. This negative 3 over 2 is my rise over my run, my rate of change, my slope. Since it's negative, I'm going down 3 and always to the right. So I plot my y-intercept of negative 2. And then I go down 1, 2, 3, and always to the right, 2. This is also going to be a dashed line, so we need to click here and make this say dashed. And then we'll get a nice dashed line like that. Now this says y is greater, so we're going to shade up. So when we shade up for this one is this way. And the very last step is in Edgeophora, you have to click right here where it says solution set, and then you have to tap where the two shading match. So if you look here, this and this are going to intersect. All of my shading would be up here, so I would click up here, and then Edgeophora will shade only where the answers would be. Okay, another domain range question for 20. Domain is my x. Here's my x. My negative 4 has an open circle. My 6 has a closed circle. So I'm going to write them in order. Negative 4, 6, with an x in the middle for domain. The negative 4 is an open circle, so it's just a less than. But the 6 is a closed circle, so less than or equal to. Range is my y. Here's my y. I have a 4 up top with an open circle. Open circle. And down here, there's this right here would be a 1, and this would be a closed circle. Sorry, not a 1, a negative 1. Then we have to write these in order. So bottom to top, small to big. So negative 1 is the small, 4 is the big, y goes in the middle. And then the 1 right here is a closed circle, so less than or equal to. But up here, it's an open circle, so just less than. $21 is very similar to number on a previous page, hang on. And try to do 21. Keep in mind, you don't have to solve by elimination. You can choose to use graphing and solve for y if that's what you want to do as well. So in the first step, I found my two equations. Pranva spent $120 on 6 daylilies and 9 pot ivies. John spent $120 on 12 daylilies and 6 pots of ivy. Now go ahead and choose your method and solve. Pause the video while you do that. So I chose elimination. I multiplied the top equation by -2 because when I do that, this right here is going to cancel off. So now I'm going to add these equations together. -240 plus 120 is -120. These will cancel off. -18y plus 6y equals a -12y. I divide both sides by -12. And I get that y equals 10. Y was my pots of ivy, or pot of ivy. And so this is $10. The question said find the cost of 1 daylily and 1 cost of pot of ivy. So the ivy is $10. Now I need to plug this back into either equation to find my x. So if I always use my top equation. You can use whatever you want. There was my top equation. I'm going to take this and plug it in. So I get 120 equals 6x plus 9 times 10. You can make sure you get this right by end solving it, comma x. I'm going to go ahead and do the math though. 120 equals 6x. 9 times 10 is 90. Minus 90 over. 120 minus 90 is 30. Equals my 6x. I divide both sides by 6. X equals $5, and that was for my daylily. So a daylily is $5, and a pot of ivy is $10. Okay, 22. There's a linear relationship between the time and days since Vicky started the challenge and the number of push-ups she does that day. Complete the statement that describes the rate of change, the number of push-ups she can do with respect to time. So, keyword right here, rate of change. Rate of change means slope. It is the rise over the run. So you have lots of options. You can count the slope, which I'm going to recommend you don't do because the scales can be very tricky. You can use a slope formula. I think your easiest thing is either to use Desmos or use a calculator and do menu 613 and use 2 points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this graph. I'm going to find 2 points. So there's a dot right here. Remember, all points come in the form x comma y. So if I look at this dot, the x value is 0 and the y value is 2, so there's 1 point. And if I find another dot, here's another dot. The x value is 2 and the y value is 6. So then you use those 2 dots. If I make a little table out of them, here's my x and my y, 0, 2, and 2, 6. So either go to Desmos and add a table or do menu 613, and you're going to look for the m value because m is slope, which means rate of change. And if you look at this line is moving up, it's positive. So we should definitely not get part of this question wrong. You have to get it right because it says the number of push-ups should increase because this line is going up like this. And when you do the slope, the m value should come out to be a 2. So the next one is very similar. We're going to find 2 points, but before we even do that, let's get half the question right. If you look at this line, it's going down this time, like this. So that means it's decreasing. So the number of push-ups this time is going to decrease. Sorry, it's having push-ups this time. Let me read the problem. The amount of money he has in his wallet. So the more he rides, the less money he's going to have. It's decreasing, and let's find that number that it's decreasing at. So here's a dot right here. My x value is 0, my y value is 40. And here's a dot right here. This one is 16, 20. X and y, 0, 40, 16, 20. You can do Desmos or you can do menu 613 on your calculator, and you're looking for the rate of change, which means slope, which is your m value, and it should tell you that it's 1.25.